They thought she was a rookie, just another name added to the roster at the last minute, a quiet figure standing at the edge of the high-altitude firing range where even veteran snipers struggled to breathe, let alone focus, the wind howling across the frozen ridgeline like a living thing, mocking anyone arrogant enough to challenge it. And as the elite units prepared for the annual Joint Operation Evaluation, an event where legends were made and careers quietly ended, no one paid attention to her worn gloves, her calm breathing, or the way her eyes measured distance without electronics, because to them she looked too young, too silent, too ordinary to belong among men who had confirmed kills measured in decades rather than numbers. Whispers followed her as she walked past the rifle racks, some amused, some dismissive, a few openly laughing at the idea that command had assigned a so-called rookie to observe the final demonstration shot, a theoretical challenge considered impossible by most standards, a confirmed precision strike from over 9,000 meters, beyond accepted ballistic doctrine, beyond what modern sniping manuals considered practical. And as the senior instructors debated wind vectors and bullet drop on digital boards, she said nothing, merely listening, absorbing, calculating, because she had already done the math in her head, factoring Coriolis drift, air density changes across elevation layers, spin decay, and microturbulence patterns the sensors couldn't fully detect, all learned the hard way during missions no one was allowed to officially acknowledge, missions buried under redacted files and false casualty reports. And when one of the elite snipers finally noticed her and asked, half mocking, half curious, if she understood the challenge at all, she simply nodded, not in confidence, not in defiance, but in certainty, the kind that comes from surviving when others didn't. And when command unexpectedly asked if anyone wished to attempt the shot for data collection purposes only, laughter rippled through the group until she stepped forward, her voice steady as she requested a specific rifle configuration no one else had considered, adjusting barrel harmonics, opting for a customized round designed for extreme transonic stability, and even then they smirked, assuming this was a lesson she needed to learn the hard way. Yet the range fell silent as she settled behind the rifle, not rushing, not performing, sinking her breath to the rhythm of the wind itself, waiting minutes that felt like hours until the mountain exhaled just enough, and when she finally fired, there was no drama, no flourish, just a single controlled shot that vanished into the distance, the spotters expecting nothing, the observers already turning away until the delayed impact signal appeared on the far sensor grid, dead center, confirmed by secondary telemetry, then by visual drone footage showing the round striking within millimeters of the designated point, a shot that shouldn't have been possible, shouldn't have existed, and one by one the elite snipers froze, their expressions shifting from disbelief to something quieter and heavier, because in that moment they realized they hadn't just witnessed a lucky shot, they had witnessed mastery at a level that rewrote assumptions, and as command demanded to know who she really was, files were opened that hadn't been accessed in years, revealing a service history disguised under support roles, joint task force attachments erased from public record, successful engagements attributed to equipment failure or environmental anomalies, and the laughter that once followed her was replaced by silence, the respectful kind, as she stood up, cleared the weapon, and walked away without a word, leaving behind not just a stunned firing range, but a reminder that true skill doesn't announce itself, it waits, patient and precise, until the moment arrives when one shot is enough to change how legends are defined. They thought she was a rookie long before she ever touched the rifle, long before the windswept mountain range tested their lungs and patience, because perception in elite units is built on reputation, rank, and noise, and she carried none of those, arriving quietly at the Joint Sniper Evaluation Camp with a file so thin it barely raised curiosity, her name listed beneath observation duty rather than operational command, and as the most decorated snipers from multiple units gathered, men whose shots were studied in training manuals and whose kill records were spoken of in low, respectful tones. No one noticed how she scanned the terrain instinctively, mapping angles, shadows, and atmospheric layers with her eyes alone, the altitude brutal, the air thin, the range infamous for exposing even minor weaknesses, and yet she adapted faster than most, adjusting her breathing without complaint while others masked their discomfort with jokes and arrogance, whispering about the new girl assigned to watch legends work, unaware that she had already survived ranges far worse under live fire rather than controlled demonstrations. And when the instructors began outlining the final challenge, an extreme-range precision shot designed to collect ballistic data beyond current operational limits, skepticism filled the air because even elite snipers knew such distances were theoretical at best, and as discussions turned technical with complex wind models and digital simulations, she listened in silence, absorbing every variable while quietly rejecting half of them, because real combat had taught her that sensors lied and instincts didn't. And when laughter broke out after someone casually remarked that only a miracle could land a shot from over 9,000 meters, she lowered her gaze, not in doubt but in memory, recalling nights when survival depended on believing the impossible was merely misunderstood physics, and although she said nothing, the seeds of disbelief were already planted. Because the men around her mistook silence for inexperience, unaware that some of the deadliest professionals learned early that survival favors those who speak least and observe most. The day of the live-fire evaluation arrived under hostile conditions that forced delays, with unpredictable crosswinds, shifting thermal currents, and visibility that degraded by the minute, exactly the kind of environment that separated theoretical experts from real operators. And as elite snipers took turns running calculations and aborting attempts, frustration grew, confidence eroding as even the best among them refused to risk embarrassment, and it was then almost as an afterthought that command requested a volunteer purely for experimental data collection, not success, not accuracy, just an attempt, and the silence that followed was broken only when she stepped forward calmly, requesting a rifle configuration that immediately raised eyebrows, opting for a barrel length and twist rate combination considered impractical, rejecting standard ammunition in favor of a custom round optimized for extreme transonic stability, and when questioned, she explained with quiet precision how the bullet wouldn't fly straight but rather survive the distance by embracing instability rather than fighting it, a concept so unconventional it bordered on heresy, and still they allowed it, convinced this was merely a learning moment for the rookie. But as she settled into position, something changed, because she didn't rush, didn't fidget, didn't rely on constant scope checks, instead syncing her breathing with the environment itself, waiting for a wind window so subtle most instruments couldn't register it. And when she finally fired, the sound was unremarkable, the recoil controlled, the rifle steady, and many observers turned away almost immediately, assuming failure until seconds later the forward sensor array triggered, then a second confirmation followed, then drone footage displayed the impact point, centered with surgical precision, and the range fell into a silence so complete it felt unnatural. Because everyone there understood the implications instantly. This wasn't luck, this wasn't chance, this was mastery beyond doctrine, beyond accepted limits, and the same men who had laughed now stared at the screens unable to speak, realizing they had just witnessed a moment that would force training manuals to be rewritten. In the aftermath of the shot, questions surfaced rapidly, not shouted but whispered, because elite professionals recognize danger when they see it, and command began opening files that had not been accessed in years, discovering that her career had been deliberately buried beneath administrative assignments and support roles, each masking classified deployments with joint task forces operating in denied territories, missions where official involvement was impossible and deniability was Mandatory engagements credited to equipment malfunction or environmental collapse, and the more they read, the clearer it became that her presence wasn't accidental but necessary, because the nature of modern conflict demanded operators who could function beyond standard limits, and as the snipers who once dismissed her quietly approached not to challenge, not to question, but to listen, she offered no stories, no bravado, only short technical answers and reminders that precision wasn't about ego but responsibility, because every bullet carried consequences measured far beyond impact points, and when command finally asked why she never corrected their assumptions, she answered simply that the rifle didn't care what people believed, and neither did the mission, and as the evaluation concluded, no medals were awarded publicly, no announcements made, because her work wasn't meant for headlines, only for results, and she left the range the same way she arrived, silently leaving behind elite snipers who would never again underestimate a quiet presence, because they had LE.